Thank you, Rakesh. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Well, what a great introduction. Thank you very much for making my life a little bit easier. Yeah, my name is Carl Gotham, and I'm the design director of SAIC's Advanced Design Studio here in London. So I haven't traveled very far. I was recently in Beijing, but yeah, I've just traveled 40 minutes from our studio in Marylebone. We are responsible for creating an advanced, if you like, satellite studio for SAIC. SAIC is one of China's longest, oldest, and largest manufacturers of automobiles, producing around 6 million vehicles per year. It's also the owner, the current custodian and owner of MG Motor, the famed British sports car manufacturer. And this year we are celebrating 100 years of the brand. So what a great time to be here to talk about what we're doing with MG. I must admit, it's it is an honor to be here amongst everybody, following off from the quantum computing session, and obviously with Andy Palmer. I feel very honored to be here speaking to you all. So as a designer, obviously this is design for innovation. As a designer, we're responsible for really creating the creative vision for our business, and making sure that we're making the right decisions, the business is able to make the right decisions for itself, for its investment, and for our consumers. And we're here to really shine a light on what that future could look like. Designers have an inherent curiosity for the future, and an ability to imagine and also to visualize what that might look like. So it makes for quite a compelling position and a very privileged position, I must say, within the organization. As we're aware, obviously, cars have had a huge impact on our society and our infrastructure and our lives and our landscapes across the world, and continue to do so. Obviously, as we've just heard from Andy Palmer there are a lot of still challenges ahead. So my Codex, I'm going to talk a little bit about the context and current challenges that we're facing today in the mobility sector and how we can use technology in an authentic way without losing the brand identity in order to make it more acceptable. I think that's a really big issue at the moment for a lot of consumers. And what considerations might there still be ahead? So we've seen that there's a decade or more of seismic shifts in the technology around mobility and EV. And sorry, I should have moved the slide on. There we go. Yes, in technology and that's across everywhere. All the products and services that we are using and consuming. There are new markets that have emerged very quickly in recent years, growing very rapidly, with brand new consumers, with brand new needs, creating brand new trends. So the role of the car is changing. The role of the car and its significance is changing. But, I mean, I stand here as a car designer. I am a car designer, passionate about cars. The car is a manifestation of a lot of things. For a lot of people, it's about status and dreams, discovery, adventure, independence, and also technology. So it's always been an innovative product, a symbol of progress, constantly shifting from one era to the next. And that's no more apparent than today, where it's moving from a more obviously a more dirty environmental concern to a cleaner, more green and more quiet future. However, it's not without its the transition to new energy vehicles is not without its challenge. So we're seeing daily headlines at the moment, particularly scaremongering, lots of challenges for electrification. Legislation changes, again, as we heard from the speaker before. Legislation is being brought in, it's being accelerated to try and answer questions around environmental pressures, but it's not very stable, it's not very fixed, so this is creating a lot of uncertainty for manufacturers, but also for consumers. And manufacturers are struggling to sort of find their new identity, their new role, particularly legacy car makers, and perhaps losing a little bit of faith in this sort of uncertain time, and perhaps a little bit slow to adapt in some cases. So this Codex really is a chance just to pause, just to evaluate which technologies are appropriate moving forward, to allow us to engage with the experience of movement and travel, because that essentially is what a car is for. It's still a very special thing to be moved around under your own steam or the steam of technology. Perhaps steam is not the right word anymore. But how do we use these technologies that go beyond just the novel and the gimmick features to make for a much more committed future that's more sustainable and more long-term in terms of its vision? So this is not an anti-innovation speech, obviously. This is about designers asking the right questions to designers to create the correct dreams for our business, our brands, and our consumers in the future. So MG is 100 years old this year, and this is a brand created from passion. It was a brand with, at its core, an experience brand. It offered a motoring and experience of driving exhilaration to a lot of people. It was a mainstream sports car experience, affordable and accessible. It's always done very well in times of challenge and difficulty. For example, after the Second World War, when soldiers were returning to North America, tens of thousands of MGs were exported there as soldiers were taking back a little bit of that taste of European freedom. And again, in the 60s and 70s, the MGB, which has become the sort of revered, globally recognized quintessential British sports car, and gave birth to the mainstream sports car market as we kind of know it today. Sold over 500,000 cars in its 18 years of manufacture. And this is a period of relatively difficult economic challenge and growth. So there is this inherent charm and character which is within the brand, which is quite hard to package and to sort of objectify, but it is there. And it's signified by the fact that the brand, even though it's had lots of difficulty through its development, it still has the largest single mark owners club in the world. So it has a huge gravity, and we're seeing that returning today. So it's a brand that's always stood out from the crowd. It's always had a pioneering attitude, and it's always been about accessible fun. So let's just have a quick reflection on what's happening today. So there is this obviously promise of technology that we've been sort of searching for, some answers to some real problems through connectivity, autonomy, shared mobility and electrification. But I think the reality of that is much more difficult than was anticipated when these topics were being discussed 7 or 8 years ago. So they're yet to have the sort of predicted impact that I think everybody was expecting by this point. And obviously we've had lots of challenge with economic conflict and things such as COVID, etc. And it's not a very visible impact for most people at the moment. The technologies are not actually very accessible for a lot of people. So how do we change that? The UK currently has only, it's estimated around 2% of vehicles on the road in the UK are actually electric vehicles. And when you take into account that there are only 35 chargers per 100,000 people, then there's no surprise that it's quite a struggle for a lot of people to adopt this technology. So there are certainly some things that need to be done with infrastructure to shift the balance in the correct direction. So there's definitely growing pains, and it feels very chaotic at the moment, not entirely organic. And there is certainly a lot of scaremongering going on to try and persuade consumers to stick with internal combustion engine technology. And again, as Andy referred to before, EVs are not the only solution moving forward. There are plenty of new energy vehicle technologies that will play an answer in the future. So what should the consumer believe? They need, in this world of mistrust, they need authenticity. We all need authenticity. We all need to believe in what we're doing and the roadmap that we're creating. These new technologies are raising more questions, and we're living in an environment at the moment when also we've got AI, which is heightening skepticism amongst consumers who are consuming their information digitally, and the need to be fully transparent is ever more. So coming on to obviously one of the biggest shifts in the automotive sector is the Chinese car market. So it's become the automotive superpower in the past 15 years, and it will be the dominant force moving forward in the future. It's consumers, if we take into account that 25, 30 years ago, there was 1 car per 8 million people per private transport, to today selling around 25, 27 million cars per year. That's a huge, huge growth and a huge market, and still there are, most of the population still don't have access to private transport. So the consumer there is very tech hungry, very tech accepting, and in 2008, China became the largest producer of cars, and 2009 became the largest market, selling 12 million vehicles ahead of the US. That figure's now doubled today. And 2014 became the largest manufacturer of EV cars, and in 2023 became the largest exporter of vehicles. 1 in 3 cars coming out of China is actually from SAIC, so a majority of those are badged in MG. So you can feel that the gravity around our brand is quite significant. So yeah, our opportunity therefore is quite uniquely positioned to bridge this gap between the challenges of technology, which we're leveraging from our company in China, but backed by this rich heritage, offering this kind of new technology at an affordable price point. And what a great story it is at 100 years and starting the next chapter of the brand. So some of the products that we've been working on over the last few years to sort of put us in this position, this unique sweet spot that we're in right now. So we're building on this legacy, this understood legacy that people associate with the brand. And the MG Cyberster here is a return, if you like, to form for the MG brand. It offers a softer approach to the technology, so it's there to soften the message of technology. It's a sports car first. It's a desirable product, and the technology is there as an enabler to enhance the experience. I've had one of these for a week. It's a totally different experience driving around in an open-top electric sports car. So again, true to its roots, offering something very unique and special to a new audience of people. And this is a mixture of emotive design with cutting-edge technology. So, as Rakesh mentioned, it's already very hotly anticipated product, and has won several design awards for its kind of innovative nature and being the first 2-seat open-top EV sports car to the market. So again, it's a right place, right time, and that's thanks to our advanced work. This project started in 2017, actually, as an opportunity to reposition the brand in today's climate, looking forward, especially for 2024, 100 years of MG. And that's our future-facing mindset that exists in the studio here in London, and also the technology roadmap of SAIC. So MG is not just about sports cars anymore, though. We are a bigger brand. We will achieve 1 million vehicle sales from MG brand this year. And that's across a global footprint, so we're selling in over 100 different countries. MG's always been a borderless brand. It's always been a very universal brand. It's been sold around the world. There are many stories that are told wherever you travel. People have touched the brand, had experience with the brand. And today we need a diverse portfolio. And we need that to speak to a broad range of demographics and markets. So this kind of is always part of its maverick attitude that's existed since its birth in 1924. With obviously the backing of SAIC Motor, we've got this advantage to answer the supply chain issues that currently exist, bring in cars that are affordable. So this is a product that's intended for mobility for all, and it's positioning us as a leader in the EV market, particularly in the UK, but also in Europe and other parts of the world as the EV sector continues to grow. So this is an EV for all, not for the few, green and sustainable, and continuing to break records. This car alone has achieved over 35 industry awards in the UK for best in class and innovative feature. So it's arrived at the market at a time when there is a need for more accessible and relevant EV products, and it's obviously putting us back on the map. So last month, actually, we were the 8th best-selling brand in the UK, which is a huge achievement for us, so and a difficult position to maintain, but we'll be doing our best. And aside from the more accessible studies as well, we're also looking ahead at new consumers, so new generations of consumers that maybe are not so connected with mobility, are less familiar with the legacy of brands, more digitally facing, and they but contrary to what we're being told, they still want cars. They're still people at the end of the day, still want to travel, they still want to discover, they still want to seek independence and new experience. So, but this project MG Maze, again, was a Red Dot award-winning project. This actually looked at a different ownership model, so bringing in all of those technologies in a new and innovative way, and actually speaking to an audience that were a little bit more digitally nomadic. So yeah, this was the first ever vehicle concept to win an award for Red Dot Design Award in the play and games category. So a kind of signifier of its innovative attitude and spirit. And I'm going to skip that page because I think we're running out of time. So the most recent output from the studio here in London is a project called EXE181. Now this is intended to build on the story of MG's innovative spirit. So it's pioneering experimental cars of the past, and it's been doing these for nearly 100 years as a brand, trying to set speed records through efficiency, so going fast with as little as possible. So this concept was shown in Beijing Auto Show 2 weeks ago, so I've just returned from there, where we've unveiled that to the world's press. And it's intended, obviously, as a celebration of the brand as 100 years, but really as a marker for the future. So it's something that's very much future-facing. It respects the past, but looks forward for a brand full of innovation and achievement. It's a homage to the original EX181 car. This particular study has been developed through aerodynamic testing and achieves a drag coefficient of 0.181. So paying homage to the name, both in spirit but also in a technical sense. And this kind of efficient speed is very important for today's EV challenges, how to achieve more with less. And with these kind of studies and this kind of approach, we're hoping to build this legacy, to build authenticity and trust in the consumers with our brand. So we're telling the story to help to bridge the gap with the fears of technology. We will be bringing that car to Goodwood this year as we celebrate the 100 years. So just to close, I'll be as brief as possible because I know I'm over time. The world is obviously changing. There's a lot of things happening: political turbulence, economic pressure, environmental concerns, and geopolitical conflict. So consumers and everybody, businesses, actually desire stability, trust, longevity, sustainability, less waste and less risk in terms of investment or purchase. Design holds the key and power to shift this by imagining more positive ways forward. And at MG, we will continue to work on positive and a responsible future, making the journey to success much lighter with less complexity in order to achieve its full potential. Thank you very much for listening.